Mic check. Mic check. 1, 2. This is the third place match for the Dominion Online Championship from 2024. We have our two finalists that are actually playing right after this is over. For anybody who's going to be interested. I say right after this is over. I guess I'm kind of already expecting this to take, 5 hours, 4 hours. For me, it's 11 p.m. and the final starts at. Sorry, Bubba. Kind of accidentally just smacked my cat in the nose. Final start at 3 a.m. for me, which is going to be in 4 hours. That might actually be kind of a low ball. Oh man, my cat probably wants to leave because I hit him in the nose. That's fine. I'm sorry, Bubba. Yeah, these two people, I think Kazumaru was eliminated by Shohizia, is how you might pronounce that, who also is the person that eliminated me, and Kayoshii got eliminated by HOLZ. So the two of them are playing, I think it's like 100 euros or something, probably less than that they're playing for. It's like 50 euros. I want to say that it's 50 euros for fourth place, 150 for third place, 250 for second place, and then like 500 or 450 or something for first. This is to say nothing of the game that is currently being played. I finally remembered to click on the kingdom cards. Right, so I don't see much in the way of draw. That's completely not true. There's Procession Fortress, I would say, is draw. In addition to being all kinds of things. And you'll have plenty of ways of getting that played. I mean, it essentially behaves like a laboratory. If you get a Procession Fortress once, laboratory that also gains your card. Of course, it also gives you like 7 actions, which you don't really have anything to use for. Highway is interesting. Who took that highway? Not that I think that there's anything really, really good to gain, but obviously what you eventually want is processions and fortresses. And then kind of once you get those, you draw cards with procession and fortress. Just to take note of it, to explain it for the viewers at home, you play procession, you play fortress twice. Yeah, normally you think of, throne room plus whatever cantrip as not drawing any cards, except at the end the fortress goes into your hand. So it's sort of like you drew a card ultimately. Let me let my cat out of my room because he has beef with me now. Yeah, so Procession and Fortress, as Timingo says, it ends up being +1 card, sort of. Well, the equivalent of +2 cards, right? Like a laboratory, as I said. And then you can kind of get as many of those effects as you want because you can play Crown on the Procession long run, or maybe this just ends with like some sort of huge turn where you're processioning processions. And it just blows up and it does everything instantly. There's definitely no shortage of like ways to turn all that extra just drawing and gaining into cracking the game open and ending it very quickly. You can even procession like a crown and turn it into an altar or something. I don't know. I actually don't see it being that explosive because there isn't ways of drawing other than processioning fortresses. And it's sort of like if you have a procession turn that's explosive, um, that usually means that you can procession something that also draws you cards by, at the wazoo, like a great example being procession horse. Um, it draws you the cards and it gains you the stuff. Whereas procession fortress, it draws you cards more slowly, and it also gains stuff that doesn't help you draw. Other than like a crown that helps you play more processions, but that doesn't, it doesn't really go super fast. So they're actually kind of off to a pretty slow start. Although the pace of play has been pretty reasonable so far. I think of Kazumaru. First of all, I think of Kazumaru as somebody who's like one of the best players. And you should too, because they're currently playing for third place. So that only makes sense. Yeah, Kazumaru is like somebody that I would get like really frustrated playing against, quite frankly, because they just take really long time at a lot of points. This is a great example of one of those times they're just thinking of what they get for $5, or $6 even, and I don't know. It's like like I'd be playing against them for League or something, and they're just like deliberating over everything, and I've been frustrated by that before, and now that I don't play as much and I haven't matched up against them in a while, I'm not so bothered by it because, you know, for what it's worth, when they think about stuff, it works out really well for them. And I would be like noticing that the decision point that they have, and even though I'm like kind of frustrated by the fact that they're just like taking their sweet time, it's like I can just kind of tell that they're getting something extra out of it. Um, like they're thinking about like what's in the deck and all that extra stuff. And I'm kind of glad that there's like at least one person that's just like splitting the game in half in their head, um, and just like pointing out anything that you know they're just like going through all the options. So yeah, yet another lot of things to gain. Of course, Horn of Plenty looks like it's just not going to get got because it's not an action card. They're also completely diving into the highways. Highways are great with traveling fair. It's kind of like an orthogonal thing. Easy. To the Procession Fortress game, which is actually not really being touched almost at all. Which is slightly surprising because it gains you cards so well, but also surprising because it's the only draw. But I guess it does make sense to me that, first of all, that highways are important here, and also second of all because doing Procession Fortress is not a way of gaining highways quickly, which is kind of funny because one of the main draws of doing this is that it just gains you a card that costs 5 every time you do it, every time you play Procession Fortress. But if you were trying to win the highway split, that's just totally not the way to do it. So yeah, I mean, Kazumaru is starting to splash the procession thing, I think, right? Did they just gain one, or is that... No, it's Kayoshii that just gained another procession. Yeah, so, and highways are important because actually that's like the only way of getting provinces in a way that is significant. I mean, you'd eventually be able to do it, Procession Fortress, by like churning up to altar and then, or I guess you could just get one altar and then use it to gain a bunch of Horn of Plenties. But that's still pretty slow. Again, because you're not drawing that much. Whereas if you do highway stuff, you'll at least, be able to like just make provinces cost 0 by crowning the highways over and over again and just buying a bunch of them in traveling fair. I still think that Kazumaru is going to want to try the procession thing, because it lets you draw cards, and because I don't know, even if you're going all the way on highway stuff, you have to be able to summon money into your hand, because you need that to buy traveling fare, to buy provinces, or maybe they're just going to do like a pure province rushing sort of thing, which you can also get done pretty quickly with altar too. But yeah, I mean, top decking procession, top decking fortress, that looks really, really good. And of course, you can just top deck another procession. Now, actually, what I would have done there is totally just traveling fair again, and then buy 2 processions. I don't know what the crown is accomplishing. I guess it double plays a procession, but so does buying another procession, and then also another one. So this is looking good for Kayoshii. I mean, they're doing the thing that I want them to do. So this is sort of where, I mean, this is where Kazu would have to figure out if they want to dive into the procession fortress, because if they're not going to do it here, I don't know. I don't know when the plan is to do it. I mean, I don't know. They already gained a crown. So I guess those are just to double play highways, which makes enough sense. I mean, just crown is another stack of highways in today's modern post-errata day. So they're reserving the crown to play something that is not a procession, which does not really make sense to me. I guess it's altar. No, maybe that makes sense. I would have still preferred to get the extra procession play. Yeah, turning into provinces. I still think that there's more time to build. I mean, it's really dwindling because those provinces are not here to stay. Well, that's just horrendously unlucky. Yeah, this is kind of unfortunate. Kazu was like doing the slightly more straightforward thing, and it looks like it's just falling flat on its face. Not for lack of being a good idea. Um, it's just that they like have to align highways and crowns together, and that's just like a basic thing that their deck is refusing to do. But they just do that in like perfectly the wrong order. I do think that a like province rushing thing could have been good just because of you can pretty reliably do 3 highways, crown and altar, say go. Like you could get that done a couple times. And there's definitely like a couple of these last turns where they were like close to being able to do that. And it just didn't exactly work out. Although actually they could have gained 2 provinces. No, they couldn't have gained 2 provinces on turn 10. I'm recording, aren't I? Yeah, I totally am. Awesome. Recording is exactly what you want to do when you're aiming to publish a video. But yeah, as it stands, I see Kayoshii being ahead on points and also having the better deck in spite of the 2 provinces in it. All right, Kazu's finally getting around to that procession card that that seems to be making waves. Procession is great. I'm definitely seeing the clunkiness of this board, because you kind of like have a lot of strong stuff, but nothing that. Well, first of all, there isn't really draw, and there's nothing that like enables the interactions to happen particularly quickly. It's looking like Kayoshii might just be able to get a pile out here. See, I don't get why you don't just fire off the Crown Highway. Maybe you're waiting to see if you can crown an altar. That makes sense. Is it in hand here? I suspect that it is. Okay, it's... Okay. It just barely is because they decided to gain the expensive thing by buying it instead of altering it, but it worked out. Cool. So Kayoshii takes the first game. I personally do not speak Japanese. So yeah, I would say that that's something I've noticed about Kazumaru before, is that they sometimes do like a relatively simple thing that just caps out at provinces very strongly. That's something that has, like, I would say, typified a small handful of top players. I would also think of Cider01, who I believe was the winner 2 years ago. That would do like kind of like fast province stuff. And I would say a lot of players are not on the lookout for ways to do that lately. Especially because, I mean, just almost every card that gets printed nowadays just wants you to build up really big. Or rather, that's just kind of like what a lot of the explosive stuff is nowadays. Yeah, I would say Kayoshii got a little lucky. I mean, it's you get a little lucky, and then you just start top decking all the good cards of Traveling Fair. So that, you know, I didn't feel like they had ridiculously good draws in that game. But anyway, I would say in Rising Sun, and just in the last couple of sets, there's a handful of things that do help you out with provinces pretty strongly. I would think of like Change as a card that will like be able to gain you 5 provinces slightly shockingly quickly, and it's hard to exactly figure out how to make that happen. What Kazu was talking about a lot in their interview is that they're good at building, which I think is also true, and that's just completely counterfactual to what I was just saying. But I do also think that they do some of the quick province stuff particularly well also. And that was a game, that last game, it could have happened that way, and it just completely didn't. Also have forgotten to pop up the kingdom cards. I should remember to do that more consistently, because I do not have to play the game. I'll say both of these last two games, I remembered to show up the kingdom, or, reveal it as soon as I started thinking about the game that was currently being played. So there's a lot of stuff here. This is one where search is going to be pretty great because you basically need it for the buys. Wine Merchant also gives you buys. Wine Merchant has the problem of giving you too much money for the plus buy. Ooh, what? Wait, oh, because they can toil, obviously. Does that make sense? Completely forgot what I was saying. Yeah, Wine Merchant gives you too much money for the plus buys that it's giving you. That's almost also true about loots. Especially because, like, Wine Merchant, I don't know, approximately gives you $3 just because of the fact that you have to leave 2 unspent. But yeah, search, I mean, the loots are just nice here, because you can draw a lot and you want the plus buys. Whenever there's not, like, really strong payload stuff and there is priest, you have to think about whether you can make a turn that plays priest a bunch of times work. And that just sounds hard because, again, that the money that you get in this kingdom kind of overshadows the buys generally, especially because a lot of the loots aren't going to give you plus buy. Which I guess is just another thing that makes the Wine Merchant and the searching thing kind of competing ideas, or rather roughly equal competing things. So what probably happens, this is like another one that might actually kind of go into provinces sort of quickly. This is being streamed anywhere. It is being commentated by me in the Discord, and the person that I'm talking to is not listening to me. I will upload a YouTube video of it after. Right, so yeah, I don't really see a big priest thing. Another thing for the viewers at home, priest is like 85% of why it's good is just because it gives you $2 and trashes an estate. It's kind of just like a better version of Moneylender in the first few turns, because it lets you trash estate rather than copper. That remaining text doesn't come up all that often, really. I mean, it comes up just incidentally, and this is a great board to be an example of it because you are going to, like, have more than one trasher. You'll have priests, and you can also play a junk dealer afterwards or something, which will just randomly spot you $2 extra. You might also get a prize goat. Actually, priest and search could be a thing. Could be a pretty big thing. Well, not really, because the first time you start trashing searches, you're not going to have the plus buys from loots yet, so maybe that's not going to be a big deal. But it'd be slightly nice if you could figure out how to get to get a pile empty on your own turn, so you can spend a bunch of extra money for peace somehow. Yeah, there's some boards where you can, if you get a lot of plus buys as the primary necessary thing, and then secondarily you just want to be able to play a bunch of actions and draw a bunch of cards. I think that search. You can set up a turn where you play like 4 priests. If you play 4 priests and you trash a card every time, that's 2+4 +6 +8, um, which adds up to the priest being worth, like 4.5 each, and of course that grows quadratically as you get more priests. It's hard to get more than 4. Like, it's really hard to trash more than 4 cards each turn. Stuff that helps a lot out is Fortress, or just like other stuff that will kind of meaninglessly trash cards, like Watchtower could also do it if you just buy a bunch of extra coppers. Of course, that means that you need to have like a ton of plus buys to get that to work. So this game does not determine who becomes champion. So Trashin can pay out with Priest, yes. As I said, I think it's hard for that to matter a whole lot, because you're not going to have plus buys easily before you get all the searches trashed. And if you do, it's from Wine Merchant, and Wine Merchant gives you a ton of money already. I mean, it might matter, I guess, if you like have Wine Merchant and you're like just short of enough money to buy 2 things and then also discard it. That could actually be something. But again, it'll be kind of minor. It's not going to be like, whoa, I have so much money and I get to spend all of it. Maybe you could like take that as a chance to do a bunch of ridiculous extra toil stuff, which would also be kind of hard. Like, you can like toil something to draw Wine Merchants and then toil to play them, which is like slightly money positive if you can do that. Like, if you can draw 2 Wine Merchants and then play both of them, that would be very hard. They're getting a lot of falconing done. I'll say this, the way that this is going looks really good for Kazumaru. I think that they had the slightly better opening with Junk Dealer. Well, this is nice. But yeah, kayoshii is just not trashing very potently. Yeah, in Kazumaru's deck that's like really thinned down like this, they're getting to react with Falconers like every time, and that's working out really, really nicely for them. Okay, I say this, they've reacted with it like just the once here. But I think it's going to keep happening too. Yeah, and that's the other thing that's great about, I mean, even just the 2 on this turn was awesome, because when you react to Falconer on your opponent's turn, it goes into your discard pile at the end of the turn, and you get to play it again, right? So you're just getting like an extra, like, it's like a reverse cobbler, where instead of like having the duration syndrome where it only works every other turn, it's like you're getting it every single turn phase. Just because I'm thinking of Magic the Gathering so much lately, that makes me think of, if you have like a Caretaker's Talent, you can do it on your own turn and also your opponent's turn. What's it called? Enduring Innocence. Yeah, having this like aggressively thin deck is really nice with Falconers. It's sort of funny the way that that sort of blue card works. That doesn't really analogize to the way that other stuff happens. Especially this like newfangled kind of blue card that is like looking for some random event that happens that might happen on your opponent's turn, and probably does. because it really there's only one way of getting that to happen, which is just happening to draw it in your hand. Even if you have like duration draw, that will not help you get it between turns or before your next turn. So the only strategy is just have not a lot of extra card in your deck, and have a lot of those blue cards. That's like the classic sort of thing, like weird edge case that makes a Pearl Diver actively bad because it makes it harder to run into the blue cards on your opponent's turn. That's always like something that you kind of have to think about. There's like people that I've noticed plenty of times that people do not realize that they're not supposed to get Pearl Diver sorts of things, or like like an extra page that you're never gonna really want to transform. People just kind of take it because they have $2. Even like good players, they'll just take it when they have $2. Oh yeah, you can't discard Village Green here because it's Village Green. That's funny. Kayoshii is thinking about whether they want to duration Village Green. Surely you don't. I mean, you want to play it and get the Falconer and then gain a Village Green with that thing. And then maybe at that point you could get away with durationing it. There's no point in durationing it now, right? I mean, you can just gain another one. I don't get it. Whoa. Yeah, okay. So for all of the compliments I gave to the way that Kazumaru's deck is looking, there's actually there's some good stuff to say about Kayoshi's deck too. I mean, it's short on Falconers, and it doesn't have as many searches in play, and that's going to get really important very quickly. Kazumaru can quickly like snatch the last Village Green. That would probably be a bad idea because then it just gives Kayoshi a loot to play this turn. Of course, it's going to be Insignia or something. But you would like to have that Village Green, eh? I definitely like Search. That's just like a cool design. You definitely like when it's nice to try to empty a pile during your turn. I would say that I sort of don't like the design of City, which is hard to make use out of as the first mover for it. Like you can sometimes empty a pile during your turn, but usually what that means is that after, like, you usually have to have played your village a couple times in order to like play a workshop to empty a pile, and that means that you kind of wasted some plays of City during your turn, and it's like a slightly compelling tightrope to walk like that, but it can also just get frustrating, and it just has that like kind of nasty game feeling of you can't do the thing that you want right away. Um, Whereas Search, it's like all you got to do is play the workshop at some point during your turn, and if you would eventually be able to draw the loots, then you're good. Um, and that means that a lot of the interesting counterplay is around like how can I prevent my opponent from being able to do that by like leaving piles at 2 or 3 or something that would be too hard to pop out during your turn. Of course, maybe Search might even be the one where the plus buy problem for loots is at its most egregious, because as much as like loot hunting sucks, like if you have a bunch of turns where you just have to buy looting over and over until you get something that gives you plus buy, you kind of know what your marginal decision has to be. You just like have to keep buying the lootings one by one. Whereas if search is like an important card, um, you can't like get one batch of it and then like smoothly update your next buying plan, right? What I mean by that is like if you get 3 searches and you trash them and none of them have plus buy, there's just like nothing for you to do. It's just over for you. Assuming that's something that you needed. Kazumaru0828's a priest, which is very interesting to me. It's like another game where they're kind of getting into that like little mini strategy ahead of the game. I feel like this should just be a search, and then you oh no, that totally makes sense, because they just need they're trying to get the extra money from the search is trashing, like somebody mentioned. Yeah, like Kookie, and also I mentioned earlier. I would definitely want to get one extra search just in case my opponent doesn't have a falconer to react instantly. No, I guess that makes sense. What they did was worse, given that Kayoshii was not holding a falconer, because you're just sort of shorting yourself an extra search. That's a slightly brutal set of. No, that's actually fine. Self scroll is good enough. But anyway, Kazu, I think, is just very happy to definitely be able to take the last village screen. Village screen is just a great card to have. It's like a village that's just cheaper than Hunting Lodge, and does more for you. And if they had taken a search, well, if they had taken a search, I guess they could have just reacted to it themselves and then gained the village screen, but then there's no point in getting the extra search. It's sort of what they did. I guess they did in the other order. Huh. So they have a search that might not ever meaningfully do anything. This spell scroll surely wants to be a wine merchant just because that's the only way to get plus buy. Yeah, so they're also just heading right for the provinces. I would note that they are not going to be able to triple province next turn, because this turn had a bunch of that extra priest money, which is not, you're not going to get that again. But even if you can double province, that's, once you have 5 provinces, you're pretty much good. What did kayoshii end up getting? Yeah, shield is fine. Shield is like the archetypical fine loot. Probably the worst of the ones that gives you plus buy. Maybe competing with Endless Chalice. I think that Endless Chalice is actually kind of fine. It's just that it's generally different which boards you want it. It can kind of sting you. This is a nice chance to put away shield. It means that I think Kayoshii has to play Envoy first and then Village Green. Unless, yeah, because you can't use the Falconer to draw an extra card. That sucks. um, I guess they would not have really been able to. I mean, what are you gonna to get a gondola? Ugh. Right, so Kayoshi is hoping to get some priesting stuff done, and it doesn't look good to me. I mean, I guess it just gets coppers trash. That's kind of nice, but you're not really getting significant money from that. This is a turn where you can almost do the toiling stuff. You can get 2 wine merchants, Envoy to draw one of them, and then toilet. Toilet. Which is completely money neutral. Instead, just getting the sad wine merchant or single province, and also just get a copper. Yeah, it looks like this extra search that Kazu got isn't going to go anywhere. Searching for something they're doomed to never find. This is maybe like priest to trash the village green and then rice broker the junk dealer. This is something where, like, just to go back to what I was previously talking about, how Kazumaru just likes to think about this game a lot. They are very likely just counting what's in their deck and like figuring out, am I going to be able to triple province this turn? Because triple province is like a super nail in the coffin thing. Double province is like maybe kind of scary, especially if you're sacrificing, like the ability for you to draw your deck. This is just a case where Kazumaru has like a 98% chance of winning this game. Excuse me. And you can kind of play this turnout carefully to push that up to like 99. And if you screw it up, it's like 97. Yeah, I see them having a wine merchant in there. Spell Scroll is also something that gave them extra priest money before. They can definitely like trash a province too. Like, if they trash a province and then get a guaranteed triple province, that's also perfectly great. But I mean, I don't know. It's slightly pointless. Yeah, so it looks like they're going to do exactly what I said. I would have done that without bothering to think of what might be in my deck. Just because it's like, that just sounds like the thing to do. I can only see them making their way up to double province plus duchy, though. Unless they can, like, gain 2 priests and play both of them? That sounds hard. That's like where you have to go into Trash Province's territory. This is it. They have $4. I see an additional 9 in hand, up to 13. Play Falconer, get a priest, trash one of those other cards. One of those 2 cards on the left, which gives you another 4. Play Wine Merchant gives you yet another 4, so that's 13 plus 8 is 21. That's 2 provinces and a duchy. Instead, we get a gondola. Oh, you have 2 Falconers. That gives you a free Falconer play. All right, so that's up to 23 now with this. Definitely you can trash a province and then triple province with what's here if you priest a gondola and then priest a province. Which sounds pretty good. Are equally impenetrable as double province duchy, but gives you like a smaller chance of dudding. Because like the way that Kazumaru loses at this point is if they like dud 100,000 times or something. I don't know. Because kayoshii, I mean, if you get 3 provinces and also trash a province, that's like basically half AP. I mean, you're in the territory where you would have to gain like all the duchies and like most of these states to win that. In this board where kayoshii has 2, 3 extra plus buys, sounds pretty hard. And meanwhile, Kazumaru has to be like completely failing to get province over and over again. Actually, triple province and trash a province is not that hard to catch up to now that I'm looking at it. Because that's 30 points. That gets beaten by a province, 4 duchies, and an estate. So I'm kind of overstating the half VP-ness of that. So this is kind of more legit. Gains a priest. Looking like this is going to be that double province, trash a province route. Or maybe they just don't like to have the gondola. I don't know. Oh, or equally... oh, wait, what? Oh, you don't even have to trash a province. Okay, so I'm just like completely... How did I miss that? Right, because that extra priest was $3. Okay, so I was just even miscounting. Okay, so this is just utterly horrible for kayoshii and like unwinnable, and they're like not having the draw that they need. I mean, you might as well get the wine merchant played. I mean, I guess not. And this is now instantly in hand. Come on. You never wanna just make your opponent have to have a decision point. That's like you'll hear some people call that like bad, what is it? Like bad etiquette or bad form is what you'd say. Is if you have a win that does not require passing priority to your opponent, you should just do that. And they didn't have to play an envoy. Of course, they would have passed priority to their opponent regardless because of the dang falconer. Me once again using the magic term for that. So I have Kazumaru up to 1. When I say pass priority, I just mean give your opponent a chance to have to do something, which happens like 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 times every turn in Magic, and like sometimes twice in Dominion. I guess priority passes like a minimum of 10 times every turn in Magic, and like often way more. It's just that you can usually say like go, and that'll kind of automate a lot of that. Workshop. Oh yeah. So remembering the game that's being played, I actually don't know if I showed up the Kingdom last game. Sorry if I didn't. Wall and Invasion are great friends. Lucky Coin and Wall are great friends. Wall is a card that I just do not play with. I played a couple games with it, back around when Empires came out, and I just got bored. Or I didn't get bored. I don't know. I actually don't ban Dominion cards for being boring. I ban them for being evil. I ban them for having intrinsic malice in their heart. And Wall is this thing that just punishes you for doing anything that you would possibly want to do. Same goes for Bureaucracy, but in like a kind of opposite way. Call me when those two cards show up together, because that'll be awesome. Flag Bearer. Sort of makes sense on Kazu's behalf. It's nice to start bringing flag bearers into the deck once your opponent is like slightly over terminaled. Kayoshii took a stowaway, which is like semi-terminal, pretty easy to react it in this board actually, but still you can't necessarily count on doing that. If, for example, this is a hand that had like flag bearer and like workshop together, that would be awkward. Which is equally possible for Kazumaru, I guess, but that's having the stowaway can just kind of gum up the works. Like if this was a 5-card hand and it had the Fiber Workshop collision, that would be pretty brutal. If there's also a stowaway. Oh, there's 2 stowaways in the deck. Yeah, I'm maybe not so sure about the Fiber then. It's definitely like a card that I don't really ever have a good feeling about when it's good to crack it open. I just let my opponent do it, and my opponents love to buy Fiber. I don't remember who or when this happened, but I there's something that some random person mentioned that was really vindicating, which was to describe a game as like a flag bearer slog. Slog is not a term that gets used so much lately. Just because it doesn't it doesn't describe a way that's appropriate to play most games. Fool sucks. I would take a second workshop. I don't know. Or stowaway. Stowaway is great. I mean, Fool does have the slightly reasonable draw of Village Green. But that's not something that the players are going to want for a while. But yeah, like you just get some games that you just have to keep buying Flybearer back and forth, and it just sucks because it's like one of those games where one of those situations where you just lose control of over the deck because you don't have choices. Like especially if you're buying Flybearer with your single buy over something else, which is exactly what Kazumaru just did. Of course, just the fact that there's a workshop in both these decks means that it's not hard to get a flag bearer and also get something else going. This just isn't one of those boards, but you can definitely just have something that gets completely sidetracked by flag bearer in a way that feels really nasty. Kayoshii is probably looking to gain a flag bearer and then also one of the 4 orange cards. It's really not obvious which one's which. Of course, you could just completely not do that at all and take us on an advantage. That kind of makes sense too. Just awkward to have the chance to take the flag and not do it. But it's really nice to get an Avanto into the shuffle, that's for sure. Really like these Kaz and K abbreviations. This might be one where you just get rid of the lucky coin. I think that both players have 2 silvers, which is surely enough. That Avanto I'm not sure about. A single bridge troll is like really, really good now. And I don't know if kayoshii is going to struggle to draw anymore. I mean, one Avanto is probably, or the second Avanto is still probably pretty great. But I would be really, really surprised if they got a third Avanto over the bridge troll. Because Avanto is not like a load-bearing piece. You can get a couple crews, not that many, but like crew and stowaway are both perfectly good draw. Yeah, so once again, kind of expecting to see a bridge troll here. Lets you react to stowaway. One other idea is to play the stowaway and buy a flag bearer. But Yeah, it looks like British roll. I would agree with that for sure. Kind of a gnarly draw there. Also kind of expecting to see a bridge roll on Kazumaru's side, even though they're, I think, a little short on draw. On the other hand, they have that second workshop. I would say Navanto is defensible, though, on their side. Kazumaru has heard my arguments and is now ruminating upon them. Navanto is defensible, as I said, and they successfully defended it in their mind. Yeah, grab the last Navanto makes sense. Kazu has a chance to do an invasion if they want. Invasion suffers from being a kind of crummy card, or crummy buy in this case. Even though he would be able to make use of the loot. It's sort of like, do you want to be able to gain a duchy and a loot in exchange for potentially not being able to gain the extra card? Oh yeah, they wouldn't be able to trash a flag bearer if they took the invasion line, so that makes sense. In fact, they wouldn't be able to trash like 30 things. So that would for sure be a reason to be unhappy with that. This is almost certainly a bridge roll, and if it's not a bridge roll, then what are you doing? Yeah. Kava Sapien and I are on the same page. always slightly awkward to figure out how to split your Avanto chains. I think that they're kind of in this unsolvable conundrum of just not having a way to bridge troll, workshop, gain another bridge troll. Well, they can just workshop and gain another bridge troll instantly. But then there's no way for them to play it anyway, because they just need too many extra actions. Unless they wanted to gain it or buy an invasion here, which is not possible. But it would let them play an attack card from their hand, famously. That is unmistakably text that is on invasion. This is a board where not that it really affects how they're doing anything, but it's pretty comfortably easy to get like a strong deck that doesn't have that many cards in it at the end. Could be a problem eventually. Bridge troll, a big part of why bridge troll is nice is that you can just like shock a bunch of estates into your deck after pals are low, and that's not something that really matters here because this threw at 0 points, and duchies aren't worth quite as much. Again, that also doesn't really change anything about the way that you play because that's just true for both players, and duchies are the main way of scoring in that fast 3-pile thing. And it doesn't matter how many points a duchy is worth. I don't know if it's the only thing that both of you can get. It means that like province is slightly better, but pretty hard to get to in a severe bridge trolling deck. I guess it means that if you want to like get workshops and gain provinces with them, that's pretty good. But yeah, this is for all my complaints about it at the top of the game. This is a board where wall is not really preventing the players from doing anything they want to do, or really even something that they would have to think about very much. Like it's the third or fourth thing that you think about when you're looking for reasons to trash these extra coppers that you have. Of course, it's funny with once you have like a bazillion sonnets in play, you do just kind of get to trash as many cards as you want. Similar to like something like a late game monastery, you just get to choose. Do I just want to not have this copper anymore? It's up to me. Although sonnet is different because of course you have to trash it from your hand. And you got to think about whether the copper is going to get in your way. And then after all that has been calculated, you're like, oh yeah, and then it's also like worth -1 VP if I hold on to it for forever. That's interesting. If they'd played the Avanto first, that would have been an issue. I guess you can kind of count on that to be the case. Right, so on the other hand, Kazumaru gets to do a lot of good gaining and playing. Actually, they might gain and play a workshop. which they then in turn use to gain and play a bridge stroll. I would say that that's just automatically worth doing. I don't really know what the consideration is here. Probably don't want a duration of village green or nothing. I guess if you just gain a village green straight up, then you can get one of them durationed, but there's not really much reason to want to do that. Did they have duration village greens this turn? No, they didn't. So why start now? I don't know. So they just don't want to have the extra workshop in their deck. I mean, that's the only thing that makes sense there. Oh, and they do duration the village green at the expense of playing a flag bearer, which just means that they're just turning down an extra village green. I don't like that. You can just ditch that flag bearer if you want. Yeah, I don't know. That's just definitely not what I would have done that turn. Thinking. I guess something that I was not thinking about was pile considerations. It sounds pretty hard for kayoshii to pile, let alone pile and also win, because if they're gonna gain like 3 village greens and 4 bridge trolls, whatever would be left after this turn, then they're down 7 victory points, which they have to make up with like a province and also a duchy or something. So I don't really see pile stuff as being really a thing here, at least not for this turn by Kazu. So Navanto also being another example of the sort of stuff that makes Pearl Diver worse. Of course, you can play Navanto hoping to draw into a sauna, and if there's like extra Pearl Divers, you'll knock into them and fail to keep the chain going. Same thing for Cultist. Crew is something that Pearl Divers like. Yay. A game action occurred. So you can draw into it. Of course, you already have the village screen, which you need in order for Crew to be good. And village screen draws it, but just in general, Pearl Divers and Crew are nice. They're good in that period of game. So, what's up with that? So they still buy the workshop. They just refuse to gain and play it, which would be at the expense of durationing their village screen. I mean, durationing a village screen is really nice to do. I'll be the first to admit it. Okay, suddenly pile consideration is like way... it's looking way closer than I was envisioning on my turn. To the extent that kayoshii can definitely pile here if they wanted to. No, they actually narrowly wouldn't. But, still they barely couldn't do it and also get a victory points lead. Yeah, they're also short on buys. So you gain 2 bridge rolls. No, that's totally not true. They're short on actions ultimately because they can gain 2 bridge rolls. Warning, possibly lost connection with game server. That sounds like a sign that it is. Time for the server to reset or something. Maybe it's not true. Possibly lost connection with game server. Gulp. Oh, that might be on my end. Uh-oh. Alright, it's looking like we're kind of back. Yeah, that's like my internet. Alright. So kayoshii would have like almost been able to get 6 buys if they wanted to, but they didn't, and also couldn't. Yeah, Wall. We're getting like into the first phase where Wall is like something that's slightly interesting because it makes it way harder to compute out the way that you can get a pile out. It makes it way harder to compute whether you believe that your opponent can do it. Because it's not just like, can you empty the pile and then make your number be bigger than the one that I see next to my name? It's like, can you pile out and then make up for the fact that your like victory points went way down when you did that? So it sort of makes sense that Kazu would have a lot to think about in the last turn, other than the fact that kayoshii just was not able to pile, like, at all. um, even if they drew perfectly, they would not have been able to get anything going here. Or they would not be able to get a pile. Yeah, I'll say this would look like way worse if they didn't have some of this duration stuff. Well, they have 2 duration stowaways. But the village green is really nice. So you can take a province. You can take a second province, and then they can... You know, if they take a handful of village greens, I think that they're in great shape. But yeah, this turn from Kayoshii is that point where you're like, as I said, you have to think about, can my opponent pile? And then secondarily, if they pile, what does their points look like after, and how much do they like have to do to make that up? Because while it makes it intrinsically hard to like perfectly make up the minute part of a victory point differential, it has to be something that you can do with provinces and duchies, because the states aren't worth anything. And so you can kind of get this like mathematical point that's like, you have to be able to afford a province and a duchy after you buy all these extra cards to drain this thing out. So yeah, it's definitely a tough shot for Kayoshii to figure out how many village greens they can get away with. They definitely want to get a ton of them, because village greens and bridge trolls, if they get some amount of both of those things, they just strictly win the game next turn, you know, basically regardless. Um, it's just that there's going to be some critical mass where um, it gives Kazumaru the chance of doing something scary with him. I fortunately have the benefit of not having any stake in this game, and I don't have to think about that very hard to figure out how many village greens would be safe. And I think that even if I did have a stake in this game, I would think about it a little bit and then give up and just buy like 2 or 3 and feel fine about it. And then it would turn out that I needed to get 1 or 2 exactly instead of 2 or 3, and I would instantly lose. I'll say that actually Kazumaru has a lot of reach in this turn. Um, as far as being able to gain and then play bridge trolls, they can do that probably like... I mean, they could probably get all 3 of them. Oh, let me close it. So I think that Kazu has a 3rd bridge troll in their deck. They have 2 that are in play. So we'll be able to get up to 5 buys. Up to 6 buys, I mean. Up to 7 buys, I mean. That would be 3 village greens. Well, as many village greens. If it was all 4 village greens, then they'd be at -11 VP. And they would need to get 2 provinces to catch up to -1 VP, which is like what Kayoshii would be at -1. So actually, I actually think that 0 village greens are safe. I think that this just like has to be. Well, that's not true because you're going to go to province. But 1 village green is probably safe, and then I actually think that you just have to be sad and buy nothing after that. Maybe a flag bearer. I don't know. Well, one thing is that Kazu does not have good ways of buying provinces. I actually don't even think that they can double province and get anything else done. That's like sort of you're thinking about the worst case scenarios if they can, or like the maximum theoretical reach if you don't think about everything. But I don't think that Kazumaru has even like $6 in their deck. They just got rid of the dang flag bearer. Yeah, I don't know. I would. You don't really need the village greens, is the thing. You can get like 1 or 2 of them. Like 1 village green is enough to be comfortable that you can win next turn, basically no matter what. And I don't think that Kazumaru can get 6 cards and also overcome the victory point differential from doing that. It's kind of at the point where you can't get away with lowering anyway. I would also probably just skip the flag bearer. Now I'm like worried that like if I refresh, it'll just start. Like that's what the hang up is here. But this, I mean, this is a tricky decision point. But at some point you gotta ship it. I don't know. Like I think that Kazumaru is getting the make Kayoshii resign pop up. Who's watching here?
Hey, Schadd, did you? I think you must be behind by a few minutes. That game's over.
Really?
Yeah. Azu piled out 2 provinces and 4 village greens. They're at a new table now.
Really?
Yeah.
I was like so sure that that couldn't happen. All right, awesome. Maybe Kayoshii took too many village greens. Yeah. So okay, my thing just froze. Huh. right there at the next kingdom. Cool. So we missed the first 4 turns of this. Okay, so this is just like a nasty groom thing. So I have Kazumaru up 3-1. I'd say this game also looks good for Kazu. I mean, where their first player won the battlefield split. And there's not that much game left to be played here. Like, this is a decision point. You might take like a rice broker, you might take a patrol, and both of those would be kind of crummy. There's not enough time to get anything slightly large going. Like, I don't know if these decks are ever going to be able to buy a province now. Yeah, just duchy too. I mean, sure, but you're still super behind. I mean, I don't know what you're trying to do with those estates, because if the estates run, then you lose. But it's not like there's anything better for them to do. And there it is. Maybe Kazu doesn't see it. That's the match? Brutal. Or is that not true? I'm just counting. Maybe my computer's overheating. Oh, it's 3-1. Okay. Huh. I thought that... I guess I had an extra game for Kazu that I just conjured out of nowhere. Okay. All right, let's look at this one. I mean, I just want to go back and look at how that other game ended. I can't believe that was a win. Oh, so kayoshii just didn't score at all that turn, it looks like. Totally. Yeah, I would not have done that. I mean, I had the benefit of staring at that end game for like something like 8 extra minutes. But yeah, this one looks tricky. Daimyo is great. Surely you want to open with a rope. It's a question of whether it's like 2 ropes or what do you do exactly. Oh, Kayoshii has Kazumaru has a great open of alms plus mint. This isn't the best board to make use of that, but it's still just great whenever you have a chance to do that. Maybe you don't do it though. Well, minting ropes is really nice. Like you get to open mint with something that you're happy to draw alongside of mint. The one thing is that rope kind of locks you out of doing alms again. But it's still got to be great. It doesn't lag that much behind, or experiment rope I think doesn't lag that much behind it. I also would think that just 2 ropes is reasonable. I guess experiment just gives you. Oh, they just bought full experiment mode. I didn't even notice that. Mint, fortunately, like keeps your rope high and dry. Yeah, in fact, I think that Kayoshii like had the perfect turn 3 and 4 where they don't even have to play out these last experiments. Kind of like spared some of the embarrassment because I feel like some of the other spectators got stuck on that last game or something. Oh yeah, they get to frog them both even. That's kind of nice. Kazu is still surely ahead. I mean, they're kind of at the point of having similar decks now, and it's just that. Yeah, I think Kazu just has a free turn that they're ahead, and this is like a sort of game where that being a turn ahead doesn't go away. In fact, they're going to be able to probably do a wealthy village now, sometime around the corner. I guess if they draw the rope instead of the estate here. It's interesting. I guess that Kayoshii is going to have the turn that Kayoshii is having now. Except that maybe they don't have that extra estate trashed. But they do have an experiment. Prize Goat is pretty awesome. Well, not really, because you're not struggling to trash your cards. Okay, so they bottom deck the silver, so that completely screws that up. Yeah, it's kind of nasty. Right, so Kazumaru doesn't see their loot. That's the one thing that prevents them from being like, 2 turns ahead or something. Because I don't really see Kazumaru getting that much done this turn then. Could just be like an envoy. I don't know, maybe not. Just like an experiment. Void is. I don't think that daimyo is any good yet. So kayoshii skips the whoa. Oh, I think that they thought that alms would work, which it did not. It's also funny that it just has to choose one. That's an undo. I don't know. I know one of those words. Are you like asking if you're like able to deal with the embarrassment of the alms undo? That's ooh, barbarian is interesting and sounds really bad. I do always wonder about whether you're like kind of okay to take the undos. I mean, I don't know. If somebody wants an undo for any reason, that doesn't literally, that's not just like look at what the top card of your deck is so you can guess it with wishing well. Um, like it's technically not a no info undo if part of the info is like learning the way that like an interaction works, or not even that. Like it's just that you thought that alms was going to work and it didn't, and like there's kind of a legitimate case that that's like a punishable offense. Like that's something that you should not be able to get back from. Like it's like again going back to magic, that this thing that I seem to be thinking about a lot. Um, at the like top level of tournaments, if you um just like there's a lot of cases where slipping up mentally is punished by just not getting the benefit of whatever thing you missed, right? The technical thing is a missed trigger. If I don't know, like if I bought a wealthy village and like just failed to say, oh, I gain a loot from this, then I just wouldn't get the loot. That's the way that it sort of works in top level magic. And it's sort of like a common, all right, so Kazumura wants the barbarian too. I don't get the barbarian. Um, yeah, if kayoshii buys an alms that they don't realize does nothing, as we all do sometimes, um, it's defensible to say that that's like you don't get to take that back. You screw that up. I don't know. Like that's not like a clicked that wrong or wanted to do it differently or like chose something. There is like info because clearly the fact that you clicked alms and clicked experiment meant that you thought that you would get to gain something, and then you learned that you didn't. um, all this is to say, I would never refuse that undo ever. Like that's just so silly. But it's sort of like it was funny that they clearly said something about it. In fact, I'll like sort of translate what they asked about. Let's see, translate. What is it? That seems to be game ID. Oh. Oh, I clicked on this. Sorry, I completely misunderstood. Can I undo my experimental purchase? Yeah. When they say experimental purchase, that they meant that they were clicking alms to see what it would do. Yeah, I don't know. You don't have to explain yourself if you have an undo in your buy phase. Like, whatever. Unless it's like a gamble. Unless you gamble into wishing well and are looking at the top card of your deck to see what it is and guess right with wishing well. So you can toilet. Which is so silly because that would be just the same as gambling into it. Ha 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 ha. I make myself laugh. Right, so kayoshii got the nice hit with Barbarian, which is to say that they hit Kazumaru's Barbarian and turned it into just like a regular Kami card, which is already what Barbarian is. I struggle to see Barbarian being better than Wealthy Village still. Especially because Barbarian turns your Wealthy Village into an ice card, and it turns your loot into a gold, which is basically the same thing. The only interesting thing is that it turns rope into silver, which is definitely a downgrade, and it turns silver into copper, which is definitely a downgrade, and it just kills Daimyo, which sucks. Oh, it kills Daimyo and gives you a curse, so that's nasty. And yeah, this is definitely a board where there's no way around getting Daimyo, because Daimyo is really, really good. So I'd still place Kazumaru ahead, I think. Oh, and kayoshii never even got the first Wealthy Village. So you don't want the mint anymore. Man, mint is also like something that's nice with Barbarian, because if they, wow, there's the way to get back into the game. Oh, that was brutal. Rope into Silver is one of the good ones. Daimyo into Curse is of course gnarly. Silver into Copper is also like kind of in the running for the strongest thing, except that's just like you're playing a reverse mine on your opponent. But you're also getting $2, so that's different. If mine gave you $2, that would be a whole different story. What? It's like the second time they've said W. Don't know what is meant by that. This is also a tricky buy for kayoshii, um, because they're kind of running out of stuff to draw with, and anything other than experiment doesn't really help you with that. But experiment is just like you're just spinning if you do that. I don't know, like definitionally, because well, not really, because they also paid off debt this turn. They paid 6 debt, in fact. How does that happen? Oh yeah, because they probably got 2 daimyo plays. They got 2 barbarian plays. So they're doing the wealthy village thing here. All right, that's suspicious. Okay, didn't realize that they still had an experiment. Don't know where that was hiding. Did they just never play it? They had one that they never played. And I guess it had been literally sitting on my screen in their hand for like 2 minutes, and I just didn't notice it. This hand for Kayoshii looks good. I actually would now give Kayoshii the slight upper hand. Slightly depending on what they're able to hit with this barbarian, I guess. Both of Kayoshii's daimyos are in the deck. And by that I think I mean all 3 of them. So that's a probable hit. Yes, there's one of those. Oh, one of the daimyos is in hand. Okay. right in front of me, right on my screen. It's as if I've never seen it before. I guess the players are kind of exchanging commiserations about that brutal daimyo hit. It's funny that like that both of them started getting barbarians before there was daimyos in the deck. But of course, there's eventually going to be daimyos in the deck, no matter what. Okay, so now that that one of those daimyos has been binned, I slightly like this for Kayoshii again. Actually, how many was there in Kayoshii's deck? There's one. So there is a total of 3 in Kayoshii's deck before that trash, and now there's just the one. Well, other than the one that was already in the hand, I meant. Yeah, so this does get to be 3 barbarian plays. Oh, and Kayoshii got a prize code too. Yeah, so Wealthy Village into something nice is like a classic example of why Barbarian seemed sketchy to me at the beginning. We'll see what else it hits, though. And of course, silver into copper, it's not like that's nothing. Barbarian into something, huh? Awkward. So yeah, once again, the pendulum, I think, is swinging back for Kayoshii, or I don't know if it's a pendulum as much as it's just a thing that is now favorable for Kayoshii. Once again, not the easiest buy. I guess it's pretty easy for them. This is going to be like an awkward turn you probably aren't going to be able to draw, but on the other hand, you're just going to play Barbarian 4 times, so you can't really complain. Because of course, if you like play 2 daimyos and then draw the experiment, it's like not worth playing it because you're ultimately missing out on Barbarian plays if you do that. But yeah, I think that Kaio is now winning this war pretty handily. I guess anytime I like see somebody be able to get barbarians played, I'm like, wait, maybe this person's winning. Probably not. Yeah, because Kazumaru is only going to get 2 of them, really. They're not going to be able to get that much more done with this turn. I mean, the sort of like accidental. Ooh, interesting. I thought that you wanted to play Envoy and do mill stuff first. While you have the extra action to use after. That doesn't sound right. Yeah, didn't they just like miss out on some draw or something? I guess they're just not bothering with the Envoy. They're also just like skipping out of the copper trash, I guess. Just like refusing to give yourself the chance to trash coppers. Copper trashes means that you're missing out on money that could be spent on more barbarians. I don't know. This looks bad for Kazumaru. They're just not. They're kind of spinning out a little here. Staff is good, sort of. Yeah, this random like makeshift mill thing. I mean, it's now at the point where all the mills that Kazumaru has been like forced to gain have given them like a little bit of a points lead that is now like also hastening to a point of being relevant. You could like make an argument for province here for Kayoshii, but I don't think that Kazumaru can really actually pile. I mean, I wonder if there's like some totally gnarly barbarian hits, but even if that were the case, Kayoshii isn't obliged to like lower anything with those. Like if they just get their barbarians hit, they don't have to gain mill if they don't want to. They could just like take experiments. I guess experiment is also sort of a low pile. So yeah, now they're doing the envoying first. Now that it's like obvious. Oh, wait. I'm, I'm like reading the players wrong. Kayoshii was doing the envoy first because that was all they had in their hand. Wait, no, it's Kazumaru's turn. I double did it wrong. Okay, how do they have so many daimyos? I don't know. Yeah, you kind of can't do any more discarding because it means you have a chance of not drawing your curse, and you really want to draw the curse. I don't know, maybe I'm overrating that. Trash the copper gains a curse, trash the daimyo gains a curse. That's brutal. Alright, what happened to the pendulum? Pendulum just turned into a pendulum again. Wow. Oh, man. I mean, that's just about as bad as it could be. And also, Kazumaru is like somehow close to being able to pile again. How did their deck recover from like getting clowned on? So 4 daimyos in the trash, which means that the 2 daimyos that Kayoshii is holding are the only ones that they have. Is that true? Yeah. So yeah, that's a big nasty point lead. I think that that estate wasn't necessary. That might have just been like a kind of quick thing that they got out of fear. Still think that that just should have been an experiment. Or rather, I think that that just should have been an experiment. For one thing, if Kayoshi doesn't have daimyos, like if they're short on those, they make up for it with an abundance of the barbarians themselves. Even if that's the less efficient way of playing barbarians is having a lot of them. They still do. They should be able to come up with the actions. I think that they still have a wealthy village in their deck. Yeah. No, they don't have a wealthy village in their deck. So yeah, I guess they can only play 3 barbarians. Kazu already just played 4. So yeah, Kashi's really under the 8 ball here. I'm worried about any time somebody's thinking too long for a buy. I mean, this is a hard buy for Kazumaru. I'm still gonna refresh the page in case it's just not loading. No, okay. Yeah, it's really hard to plan around endgame stuff if there's barbarian. Um, More so for the person who's behind than the person who's ahead. Because if Kazumaru is scared about getting barbarian in a way that would lower piles, they can just choose to not gain the thing that would be scary. But on the other hand, if Kayoshii is playing barbarians, then Kazumaru can just like gain mills or something and just lower piles and be scary. Um, or they could just choose not to do that. Of course, from Kayoshi's perspective, they're just kind of hoping to throw Hail Marys to win anyway. Sorry for the wait. What does that next line mean? Yeah, I assume that Kayoshi said, don't worry about it. Let me make sure that I get the tilde at the end. Let's go with the prayer that won't break our bonds. I feel like that wasn't translated correctly. It's okay.
大丈夫です。
This, I should be able to recognize these two characters then. Huh. I guess I don't. Once again, I'm worried that this game is going on without me. I guess we had that like server reset at some point during this game, and it's just continuing without it, or continuing without a problem. Once again, I mean, I completely acknowledge that this is a totally hard buy phase. That doesn't mean that it's not one of those things where Kazumaru has like a 90 something % chance. They're trying to get that to like a 90 something +1. Why don't you once again see if this got interrupted? It's like not letting me leave the... What's going on here? Why are you watching? You're like, you have to play. Okay, so actually don't know if it ended without me or what happened. So I did get 2 experiments. I was also looking at experiments as probably the best thing. Sort of. Yeah, this is not a good enough set of hits, I think. Yeah, Kazumaru, as I was sort of also thinking about earlier, they're just happy to lower piles in whatever scary, threatening way. And surely they're going to be able to find the win here during this turn. It's not super hard to do so. In fact, might literally be in hand. All they need is $12 and 4 buys. I see something really close to that, at least. The real question is if they can do it without, again, without giving kayoshii a chance to do anything. And it looks like you should also be able to do that, I think. So it looks like Kazumaru is going to take this 4-1. As soon as that's done, I'm going to go ahead and check out the log for that middle game. Because I really think that should not have had a chance to be messed up. Brutal. Come on, why you gotta do that? that's just cruel. That's just nasty. Oh, and you have 6 buys. I was counting 4 because I guess I just missed the candlestick makers. So there is a win here. Let's see if you can find it. GG's. I'll like stick around in case I have something to say at the end. Yeah, good match. I mean, they say the same thing to each other. Well played or something. Thank you very much. Arigato. Gozaimashita. Yeah, Kazumaru, I mean, just played everything really solidly. There's a lot of games where it felt like they had the better opening and they just didn't mess it up. There was one game that kayoshii messed up. I really actually do not feel like I understand what made anything happen in this last game. Felt like kayoshii was strongly ahead, and I like looked away, and suddenly Kazumaru just had this big functioning deck that was like playing a bunch of barbarians, in spite of having like all the key cards trashed. So I don't know. That's just the Kazumaru magic. But there's some other games where, I don't know, they were doing similar things, and I guess Kazumaru, just being the master of building, just did everything slightly better. All right, I'm gonna go and look at that last game, or that middle game. And in fact, what I really want to know is, let me load this from like the, from the 8th to last decision, so that it doesn't just open at the end. Successfully connected to the new server. Lord Reddington takes the chance to get 7 golds instead of piling out and winning, which puts him at negative 13 victory points. Right, so what was my last? Right, so this is the turn where I'm like, you have to get a province, and the question is how many village greens you also get. Let me do that and then play out Kazumaru's next turn and see if... Because my idea was just 1 village green and be okay with it. And buys, resign, wait for Lord Reddington to gain all their golds and silvers. And then see if Kazumaru had any play here. Other than buy a silver and 3 golds. So if you just buy a province and 1 village green, maybe should have also taken the flag, but I don't think that really changed anything. So what? It's like... Did I have it? Oh, I was supposed to play this Sona first, sorry. Can I have an undo? Oh, I didn't have the Sona, okay. I think you play this out, right, so you get 3 bridge strolls, as I was sort of thinking you would do. But then you're just in this, like, huge VP hole. Somebody's spectating me. Is that somebody who's, like, listening to me? I don't know. Yeah, I guess so. Then you can get province. Okay, so this is totally still a win. No, it's not, because it's actually a tie. No, it's a loss. Yeah, because duchies only were 2 points. And let the record state that if I had, in the other seat, gotten 2 village greens instead of 1 village green, which is what I wanted to do when I was looking at this for 8 minutes, because I didn't realize that the game was actually just over. Unless that there's a better way of doing this that I just missed from Kazumaru's seat. Yeah, if there's 1 more village green that I didn't have to gain and could instead gain a duchy, then I would have won this game. But I don't think that there's really anything else to do. I mean, you kind of have to... If you don't get the bridge strolls, then you're not doing anything interesting with your turn. And if you do get the bridge strolls, then you're just putting yourself in this position where you have to win, or there's just a super easy pile out from Kazumaru's side. From Kazumaru's side, excuse me. Like, what else is there to do? I guess you can just get like 2 duchy or 2 provinces. And 5 duchies? Is there a way to make it work so that you can get 8 duchies? This is all to say that, I mean, from what I'm doing, it feels like there's not a win for Kazumaru anywhere, but I might just not be looking hard enough. 7 duchies is also, like, really close. Or 8 duchies. But yeah, this is where they got like 3 markets instead of any provinces at all. I'm gonna call that a throw. I think that's just like, I don't know. They just were too comfortable in this position, because I do really think that, I mean, even if like, I mean, I could have just gotten 0 village greens um as kayoshii seat. So that's like one thing that I think was like a game losing misplay. And if you make one of those, then you know you kind of deserve to lose the best of 7. So yeah, I mean, there's more. I could be totally wrong in this analysis, and I you know, I haven't been perfectly mentally acuitous tonight, but yeah, I think that Kazumaru earned it, and I think that they haven't gotten higher than 3rd place before. So props to them. Again, really good player. And that's all I got. All right, signing off.